it's been quite a while since I made an episode about learning English, but that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today, because recently a listener called Daichi wrote an email to me and asked me a few questions about speaking English, and I thought, well, it's probably better to answer these questions in a podcast episode, because I can say a bit more about them than I can in an email. So, Daichi says that he's been listening to and reading English, which he could understand, and he feels he's learning a fairly large amount of vocabulary. But when it comes to speaking, his mind goes blank. So using this vocabulary, like recalling this vocabulary when he's speaking, is a problem that makes him feel a bit stupid. And in addition to this, the words that he has learned, that he knows, they don't come naturally to him when he speaks. So I guess he feels like he has to sort of fetch them, and it's quite difficult fetching them from memory. They don't just flow naturally from his mouth when he's speaking. And finally, he adds that sometimes he goes through this process of converting like a sentence in his mind from Japanese to English and then saying it, which of course slows him down when he is speaking in English. So I guess there's 3 points there. So for the first one, when it comes to learning vocabulary and using vocabulary, I think what you're experiencing is completely natural, and it's what everyone who is learning a language will go through. I've learnt over 10,000 words in Japanese. I know this because I have a deck, an Anki deck. It's got over 10,000 words in. And those are just the words that I've studied. So there are lots of words that I've also picked up as well. When I'm speaking, I can't recall 10,000 words. Absolutely not. There are even words that I know. So that, if that makes sense, there's words that I know, but I can't use them because I've forgotten them. But I remember learning them, but I just can't remember what they are when I'm speaking. This can be frustrating at times. But it's just, there's no real way to avoid this. This is just a part of learning. It's like with reading, with listening, with studying vocabulary, it's sort of like step one of learning a word. Step 2 of learning the word is when you can use it, and you can use it easily, and it just comes to you naturally. Now, how do you get to this sort of step 2? You do it by speaking a lot, but you might think, well, how do I speak a lot if the problem is I can't speak well because I can't get these words into my head? They're not sort of like they're not at step 2, level 2 yet. I only know them a little. I don't know them really well enough to bring them out naturally. Well, the answer is that you sort of ignore that and you learn to deal with it, because you absolutely have to speak to get better at speaking. To some degree, yes, learning vocabulary will help you speak. Listening will help you speak. Reading will help you speak. But when you're finding it easy to read, when you're finding it easy to listen to things, on what people are saying to you or on the television or whatever, that's when I think your attention moves away from just listening and reading and vocabulary so much, and then it does focus more on speaking, because that will be the last area of your language ability that will be the weakest. So to get better, you absolutely have to, to get better at speaking, you absolutely have to speak more, because this is where you're having a chance to put into practice all of the listening and reading and vocabulary study you've been doing. So you have to get used to not being able to talk like you would want to and to say the things that you want to say. So a very simple example, if you've forgotten the word for dog, then you can say, it's like a cat, but a bit bigger. A pet. It's a pet, like a cat, but a bit bigger. Just describe your way around a word you've forgotten. You can't always do this. If it's not a noun, it's a lot harder to do that, obviously. But you get used to being creative with your second language or with English. You get used to, you learn a way to say things more simply. And it's okay doing that. It's not ideal. It's not what you want, but it allows you to speak more. And by speaking more, you can then start to take some of these more advanced words into that sort of like level 2 step of learning them. And I think one of the ways you can do this, once you know enough can't speak today. Once you know enough vocabulary, I think you can probably stop practicing vocabulary. Like if you're using like flashcards or Anki or something, maybe you can just stop. And then you can focus on words that are really useful to you. If you just open up a dictionary and just start learning every word in it, it's not that useful, to be honest. So let's say you're speaking and you start to notice that every time you're trying to describe something, every time you're trying to tell someone something, it's just, you get stuck on this word, and it's a word and you think, I should know this word. Maybe I know it, but I can't remember it easily, or maybe I just don't know it, but it'd be really useful to know. Write it down. Write down all of the words that you want to know. Write down all of the things that you find hard to say. Write down sentences that you can't construct. And then find out how to do that. Find out what the right word is. Find out what the right way of saying it is. Get a good example sentence and study that. Let that be your study guide, instead of like textbooks or whatever it is that you might be studying with. Just learn, sort of like listen to yourself, like a teacher would, I guess. So, like a teacher might say, oh, you can use this word here, or use this sentence pattern here, or whatever. You can do that for yourself. You just have to recognize what it is that you're getting stuck on, what it is that you're having trouble with. If you do that often enough, you'll find that speaking becomes easier. But yes, I suppose in summary, there is no really easy way to get around this. It's like this is like the next level of language learning, I think. This is sort of like getting onto the final stage maybe. And that's this getting everything you've learned and turning it into the ability to be able to say whatever you want. Because I think when you've got to that point, when you can understand what everyone's saying to you and you can say whatever you want, for some people that's pretty much the end of the line. That's the finish point for some people. Maybe there are those who want to go on and study, I don't know, they want to study Shakespeare or something. But for me and my Japanese study, I just want to get to that point where it's, I can say whatever I want really easily and understand everything that people say to me. And when I get there, I'll think, yeah, that's sort of the end now. It's not the end, because language learning is something that you do forever. But I hope you can understand the point that I'm trying to make. So really, when you're speaking English and you're finding it a bit frustrating, I think you have to bear in mind that you're really close now. You're really close to like the final stages of your English learning. And you're getting a chance to use everything you've learnt and put that all together into speaking. Because speaking, you're using your vocabulary, you're using your sort of knowledge of grammar, and you're using listening ability when people are speaking to you. So it's everything all coming together. So of course, doing that is one of the most difficult things. But it's important to enjoy it. You know, you've spent a long time getting to this point, so you should be having fun with it. Even if you can't say what you want, just being able to say something is good. Even if you can't say something in a really clear or maybe like an elegant way, if someone can understand you, then the conversation can keep going. And keeping a conversation going and keeping practicing speaking is very important, because that's how you get better, and it will just happen naturally. Or, as I pointed out before, if you want to like make notes of all the bits that you're sort of getting stuck on, then you can speed up that process a little. But even if you don't do that, just speaking often, you will improve just doing that alone. Okay, so that is it for today's episode, but I have not finished answering all of Daichi's questions. So the next episode, I'm going to continue talking about this. I'm going into this in quite a lot of detail. It has been a long time since I've made a podcast about learning English or learning a language. So thanks to Daichi for giving me the opportunity to talk about this kind of thing again, because I do enjoy it and I am passionate about this subject. Okay, so until next time, bye-bye.